I think the most important part of that consumer tech in India is understanding consumers. It is 1.4 billion consumers. Suddenly, you can analyze unstructured data. You can analyze voice. You can analyze image. You can create images. You can create text. Suddenly, there's a whole lot of things that you can do till the run up to the Gen AI stage. A software developer person at most can probably automate certain parts of the code. This is getting disrupted completely. It's a very different kind of disruption from what we have seen. So the whole business model of doing a startup now is probably completely changing, both in terms of how you set up your org, B, how you price your.
Hi, folks. Great to have you here. We have with us Prateek Pal, who works on data and AI for the Tata Group. And he has a huge range of experience, both in digital transformation and more specifically in AI in the last few years. And what I love is the amazing breadth of experience and across different industries and the depth in each of those industries as they've been doing transformation, and as particularly he's been looking at transformation over the last many years. So welcome, Prateek. Really happy to have you here. Would you want to do a quick intro about how you got where you are and how you've been able to spend so much of time in the space?
Thank you, Prasanna. I had spent almost I think 27 years in TCS right from my campus. Obviously, it was a great experience. I did many roles. I started as a programmer, went to US and all that. So the last 10 years of my TCS was leading the consumer unit in TCS, which is retail, consumer goods, travel, hospitality, and all that. So after, and obviously during that period, the whole digital trend was happening. This 2010 to 2019, right? The 9 years when digitization happened, cloud happened. So I have kind of seen some of those, how it got adopted in markets like US, UK, and Europe. Then I left TCS in 2019 and I started a startup, Tata Digital. The purpose of Tata Digital was to unify all the brands' online presence into a single unified presence on an app called Tata Neu with a very strong loyalty proposition. So that's what I did for 5 years. We launched the app, and then so I came out of Tata Digital in 2024 when the app was stabilized, and the next phase of growth in financial services and other areas was thought about. And the last 1.5 years, I have undertaken an initiative in the group to develop an AI and data platform. Obviously, as a part of the group, but for a larger cause. And in that role, I have been very closely associated with all the AI initiatives that are happening in the group and outside, and hence have a very strong understanding of what's happening with AI across, especially focusing on India. So that's my short introduction. Thank you, President.
Great to have you here, Prateek. So I think you witnessed multiple eras of digital transformation, right? The first one, a global digital adoption, then consumer tech in India adopting tech and becoming very tech first, and now you're looking at AI. So how have these shifts changed the way you think about it? Do you have a mental model for when transformation works and when transformation doesn't work? How do you think about these things?
I think the years of 2009 to 2019 was pretty much the entire era of digitization, right? So during that era, obviously, as you rightly said, there was a lot of transformation. Every enterprise was trying to transform themselves. But that transformation, they used to code name as digital transformation, right? And what it meant was basically they were sitting on heaps of legacy systems. So to make it much more agile and nimble, APM in creating APIs or API-fying those systems was one of the big initiatives. Second was the entire cloud came, and hence moving the infrastructure and the applications to cloud was another big part of the whole digital transformation. So I will say cloud, data, and apps. These three things were the that era of digitization. But still, it was making nimble, efficient, digitizing a lot of manual processes and all that. Right, that was that era. Obviously, it was a huge era because I think that era was important because I think enterprises suddenly became much more nimble and agile from the lot of legacy and technical debt that they were sitting on as a part of their digitization. The second part is completely focused on something else, which is the consumer take in India, right? I think the most important part of that is obviously it was very commerce centric, and I think commerce is very fairly well understood. I think the most important part of that consumer tech in India is understanding consumers. Right? It is 1.4 billion consumers, so many cohorts, so many India A, India B, India C. You have many ways to understand these consumer cohorts. So I think during the 4 5 years, our whole effort was really to understand and use obviously technology a lot and customer data, right, to understand the behavior of the customers, what they buy, when they buy, what they buy together, what they don't buy. So I think personalization became and consumer experience the two top things that we wanted to achieve as a part of the consumer tech. And if you see that consumer tech everywhere, everybody is trying to understand consumers in some way or another. And I think technology that time and I mean is a core part of understanding that, which was probably not possible before. I think the third part is probably a very disruptive part, which is the AI era, right? Now suddenly what has happened is things that probably was not possible before are suddenly possible. I mean, you had to put all data into tables and structured data before, whereas enterprise was sitting on 60-70% unstructured data. Suddenly, you can analyze unstructured data. You can analyze voice. You can analyze image. You can create images. You can create text. Suddenly, there's a whole lot of things that you can do that was just not possible before, right? So the power has immensely improved. So if I ask me things that never we could imagine can happen through a conversational interface, or it can happen. The mental model of transformation is completely changed, right? So if you just take an example of a coder persona, software developer persona, right? A very simple example. In the till the run up to the Gen AI stage, a software developer persona at most can probably automate certain parts of the code. That is it. And we were very happy that if you could do 5% automation or whatever those are, right? You used to write templatized code, templates. You can copy those templates and all of that. But now, if you see the whole code, I mean, whole code is getting generated, and it's a human in the loop with cursor kind, and you can do wonders, right? The whole persona, the coder persona work has changed. Take any persona, business persona, coder, tester. This is getting disrupted completely. It's a very different kind of disruption from what we have seen, a system disruption and all of that. So that is the mental model. How these whole personas are getting disrupted in the AI era.
So, even if AI comes, I think we'll still have power cuts, right? So, not lost power that came back. So, if you had to draw a distinction between change within transformation and how that change happens between people, what needs to be figured out? How do you approach it? Do you approach it as a big project? Do you approach it as small pieces? How has that changed between the older digital adoption kind of a paradigm and newer AI kind of a paradigm? Is there a difference? If there's a difference, what's
See, the digital era, I think the outcomes were clear. You knew what you were expected, right? It was a rule-based transactional systems, right? Outcomes were clear. The specifications were clear. The inputs were clear, right? So you can embark on a large cloud migration project. For example, you want to migrate all of your data into cloud, right? You know exactly what you want to achieve. You know what is the input, you know what is the output, and it's a large project. All you can do is you can phase one, phase two, phase three. Maybe you will move some parts of data first now. So that was the mode of delivery, right? So you had no problems in embarking on large projects because you knew exactly what to expect and what to achieve, right? You can phase it out. That's a different thing altogether. Phasing can be based on different things. Though having said that, there was a part of change management involved in the enterprises to adopt digital, which I don't think we should ignore. So, a lot of people in the digital adoption started as omni-channel, right? People can buy online, pick up in store, and all of those things, right? That's a significant change management and part of the enterprise in terms of processes, in terms of many things. So that and the roles were changed, right? So that change, because of the change management involved, which is a significant part in doing digitization, it had to be phased out in a certain way. You can't do a big bang and assume that the whole org will adopt that change one shot. So the organization change management determines the phasing of the project. It's not the project technology and whatever. Right? It's a very different thing. In AI, it is not the change management of the enterprise. That is there, but we will not come to that because we are not sure, and enterprises will need accuracy, consistency, all of that. Because we are not sure of the output, whether it will generate the same output every time you run the model, whether the same guy in one run will be qualified for loan, second run will be discarded for loan. You don't know, right? So hence, of the very nature of that, it has to be much more iterative, experimental, and all that. The change management part of the organization comes later. That's a separate problem. But the technology itself will lend it to a more iterative way. Whereas the digital organization change management made the phasing different. So that's a big difference.
So, I'll jump into something that you said at Vibe Summit. When you spoke, you said, hey, hey, don't look only at applications, but look at the entire AI stack, right? Semiconductors, foundation models, software, applications, all of that stuff, right? Where do you see India's best shot at building a global leadership from an AI perspective? And because you have experience looking at a lot of things, so it would be great to hear that.
So I think India is doing a lot of things on the model side. Obviously, there's a very capex intensive. So there are things happening on the model. Data center, if you see, TCS just announced a 6 billion data center investment. So data centers also, yeah, they are starting to do certain things. But those are require significant large capex and investment. So I assume the startups will not find those kind of investment to start from scratch. But when I said the full stack, I didn't obviously mean startups. I meant that India should look at it holistically. But having said that, also when we talk about applications, you only talk about the topmost layer of the application, right? I think there is a significant part that we don't focus on, which is what, say, software engineering. So, for example, eval, right? I mean, what is AI? End of the day, you have to do lots and lots of evals and prompt engineering. I feel evals is the most important part to make it accurate. There's the last layer. People are doing evals in many different ways, unstructured ways, structured ways. You need domain experts. Some people are generating some of the evals. There's a lot of scope to even do something in that space. Whether it is evals, whether it is in the coding, whether it is in the data, whether it is in cybersecurity. So there is a lot of scope in the horizontal things also. Often the vertical ones are always there, right? That is probably where the value is. But we should not ignore the horizontal ones. That's what I meant.
So one of the things that you said at Vibe Summit, you spoke a lot about voice as well. You made a strong case that India's culture being very voice first can be a gold mine for us. How do you see enterprises bringing voice into the customer journey? And when you bring voice, unlike structured data, you also need guardrails especially for sensitive things like healthcare or insurance or payments and stuff like that, right? So how do you see voice, and how do you see voice transforming your enterprise journeys?
So I think the interface has to be for India not only text but voice. I think that's a given because of the very nature of our regional languages, multilingual, and all of that. So first is the interface has to be voice. First. We cannot have an application that we want to roll it out to the masses, which is not voice first. That's number one. If you have a voice first culture from a consumer side, then obviously the enterprises have to adopt it, right? So take any process. So for example, in an e-commerce, a search, for example, right? The search has to be voice based or voice first. You take maybe in again for coming back to our group, maybe take automobile buying, car discovery and search has to be voice first because it can exactly express what kind of things you are trying to buy. You are saying, I'll only use it for weekend, I will take it for long drive. All the specifications can really be given in a voice. The enterprises have to understand that and incorporate into their search journey or claims in insurance. So you are now filing for claim. Now you have to give the whole thing in a voice, right? And so that's from an end user perspective. Enterprises also can use voice very innovatively, right? So I think people have started insurance companies calling agents, calling consumers, right? Whether you want to buy. There's now 80% are now automated voice, right? You know the consumer persona. Based on that, you customize it and then talk about it. So there are many such examples of how voice will not only be a part of how enterprises adopt their processes to cater to end user, but also how they will use voice to target customers. And from a regulatory perspective, I think it is very important. So then the things, especially in healthcare, right? So especially things around privacy, things around customer consent to use your voice or record your voice to do something, right? The storage of the voice has to be local. How do you store the voice? Where do you store it, right? Is it auditable? Is it traceable? Uh, then also, if you are going to give a voice-based response, the tonality of it, the ethics of it, all of this, the guardrails around that has to be very strongly built. So I almost believe there has to be like a voice governance board within enterprises. If your
Oh
voice is
wow,
going to
interesting.
be your voice is going to be your biggest way to interact with customers.
So, Pratik, you had spoken about a few different use cases and also over time, right? I think Big Basket had a voice use case a long time ago, and then now you've tried multiple use cases. One in the jewelry segment, one in the car segment. How have you seen this play out in the past, and now what's the difference, and how is it more powerful now, and what's landing?
No, I think the voice that was there before was especially for all it was on customer service, right? Mostly that used to. And the technology was not mature to understand the various tonalities, the various nuances and the words and all of that. So it was not a very perfect experience, I would say. The experience was not great. I think now I feel voice has matured a lot, both in terms of multilingual, also in terms of how we understand the various nuances of documents, right? So from that perspective, there's a huge change from the adoption of voice that was there before to now. Because before, when you talk to an automated bot, immediately after maybe one or two queries, you realize the bot is not answering. So you would want to talk to a physical person. So we used to measure how many times it got escalated to a physical person, right? So that was the measurement of the efficiency of the bot. And the efficiency was very low. I mean, it was not answering. So immediately we'll say, can I talk to the physical agent, right? But now the efficiency is very high. I mean, hardly maybe 7 to 10% gets escalated to a physical agent, and mostly it is done by a voice code. So that is the difference between the. Now it is so that we cannot completely get rid of humans. So sometimes we want to have a human for empathy, but that's the efficiency part.
Got it. Got it. Can you just describe the jewelry use case and and the car use
Yeah,
case
so
is very high.
So the use case is simple. So when you are buying when you are buying jewelry, right? So you will have a lot of finer nuances to buy jewelry because you are buying a very high value item. Number one, you're going to spend a lot of money on that. Second is no two jewelries are same. There's no template. One ring and second another ring. If you go to any type, you will see that two rings are different, right? So there's so much of variations in features. There's a value involved. So the jewelry buying is a very intricate process. Now the question is when you are explaining it to a sales agent in a store to understand what you're exactly wanting and able to give you the right design, right, is a not a very easy exercise. But they do have iPads. I mean, the Tanishq stores do have iPads. This device can actually record. I mean, as you are speaking in concept, it understands what you're trying to ask, right? So you're saying, "I want a diamond necklace for my wife, or this type, and all that." Right? Now, there are a lot of nuances of diamond, first of all. Right? So this is able to understand and then recommend what is the right design that you should show. So it's able to understand your voice at the point of sale counter, and then that's the acoustics. Very powerful, I felt.
Yeah, this is very non-traditional from a voice perspective as well, right? Because most of the voice use cases that I hear are, a call center. It's already like digital in some way, shape, or form, and then, but this is very, very different. It's in the field. It's noisy.
I will
I don't know.
give you
A lot
another
of
use
different
case
features.
without telling the company name, I'll give another very interesting use case. So, for example, say a power company, right? A power company say, a power company serves a state. Now, what happens is when when there is an outage, then you need to inform the consumers that there is an outage, right? But the mobile numbers that are there in your database, or maybe there has been a disaster and power is down, and you need to communicate that power will be down and all that, right? But the mobile numbers that are there in the database are not correct because it's old mobile numbers. So this voice agent, and say there are 20 million subscribers of this power company, but impossible to call and find out. So this voice agent can call every subscriber and say, is this the right mobile number? And immediately you'll find out which are the right and which is wrong. And you get a list of, okay, fine, these are the 100,000 people that mobile numbers are not right because it doesn't go in. And then you correct it. So this has been applied in a large state in India. It's a very innovative use case of how voice can be used to really get your data right.
I think you also mentioned that, from a transformation perspective, business cases and the whole, it's not just a tech change, right? But even there can be new business models that evolve because of transformation, whether it's the older digital transformation or now AI transformation. So do you think that there are new business models that might come up with voice AI and other AI things that you're seeing?
I think the difference, I think the difference in the business model is a function of pricing, function of the org, and all that, right? So I think the thing that is happening in terms of business model, especially what I see in the startups in that area, right? Number one, which used to be done maybe with 100 people today, are done by 5, 6 people. So the whole business model is shrinking, right? Right. I mean, I can tell for myself, if I had to do what I am doing earlier, I would have done with maybe 10x more people. Totally different way of doing things. So the whole business model of doing a startup now is probably completely changing, both in terms of how you set up your org, B, how you price your thing. Pricing also has completely changed. Right? So those are two aspects that I talked about on the business model side. There are a lot of innovative examples of newer startups disrupting many things, but that I can say.
So just coming back to the transformation part of it, right? You had set a very, very high bar for transformation outcome. examples, right? Saying, hey, an AI transformation should lead to 80% cost reduction, 3x lifts in things, 200% change in something else, and things like that, right? And so, where is that kind of a high bar coming from, and why? Why do you think that? What have you seen in terms of AI being able to deliver that rather than just incremental kind of a change?
See, this is my theory, and I don't. I mean, I'm not sure whether everybody will agree to this theory, but so when you transform a business function, or you transform a process, or you transform a task. Transforming a business function will have a number of processes. So a sales function or marketing function, campaign management will be a part, is a process as a part of the function. Right? So there are many such processes. Business function transformation is a very big thing. So I will leave that out. Task is you're only transforming one part of the process, which is a very minuscule part. Process transformation is where the actual value is. So the context that I said is that if you are able to really transform a process into it, then only you can drive those outcomes, which is a clear benefit and ROI to enterprises. If you are going to say that I will only change how you send your emails today, or I'll generate the email for you and change it, that's a task, one part, right? Email generation, right? Or you can say, okay, fine, I use voice to do this. That's only one part. That will not give the outcome that I was talking about, right? And does it change the needle? Maybe it is, but large enterprises may not see the movement of the needle, right? So I think process transformation is where the actual value is. So you transform the campaign management process completely end to end, and then or you transform the product discovery process in automobiles for completely end to end. There you go to the dealer, you transform the dealer, all of that, right? So that's the outcome that I talked about, which is where the outcome should happen.
So the question here is, why such a high bar, right? I'm not sure such a high bar existed for previous digital transformation. Okay? Because in previous generations, I don't know whether such a high bar was there. So what in AI is making you feel like such a high bar should be there?
Yeah, because I feel the expectations are that if you are going to go and say a simple example that I'm going to automate your coding by only 10-20%, they will say anyway I can do it. I don't need to use AI to do that. I have many other ways to do it. But if you can say so, then where is AI coming in? They will not understand the impact of AI, right? Now, if you say no, I can change your coding automation by 40-50%. I'm just giving an example. That's where the high bar comes. That's where they will say, fine, that's what AI. Then only they will start thinking and investing first. The problem is today they are not, if you're going to give a very incremental thing, there's no point investing in changing so much of things. So you need to have that kind of an impact and shock factor, I will say, to make them adopt it.
Got it, got it. And are you seeing that in production with some of the use cases that you're doing, where you're seeing that kind of a large impact?
See, there are two things, right? A, it is not that many use cases are going to production. That also is there, right? So if you do 100 use cases, maybe 10 to 15 are going to production. 10 to 15% is going to production, right? But the use cases that are going to production are the ones that are obviously achieve the accuracy, consistency, and all of that, but also adding the value. And hence, that's the kind of value that they are. So, for example, a normal recommendation is giving you a customer uplift by X. Obviously, they expect that AI should give you 2x to 3x minimum.
So, compared to buying traditional software products earlier, right? If you're buying AI products now, Gen AI products now, working with startups or otherwise, right? How has your evaluation process and buying process changed?
I think normal software, though, there are a lot of references. Prasanna. You can get 100 case studies where it has been implemented. You know exactly what are the KPIs that have been met. You know what uplifts have. So you're very clear that fine. I implement this. I know exactly these are the KPIs that will get impacted. These are the outcome I will get. So it's only a question of then it comes a question that does it fit into my enterprise? So it's a very different sales game. Right? That I have this enterprise, this is a norm. I know what software can do. I'm very clear. You don't have to sell me the software, you sell me how the software can fit into my enterprise. That's the sales of the government software. In Gen AI, there is no benchmark. That's the first thing. So you are not knowing what to expect, right? So exactly what you asked. Yes, I implement a recommendation, Gen AI based recommendation system. I don't have a benchmark. Some enterprises have got 3x, some enterprises have got 0.5x. So there is no benchmark yet because hardly how many 10% of the projects or 10 to 15% have gone to production in the world. So that is the first problem. Since I don't have a benchmark, my buying process has to change. I don't know what to compare against. So my take will be that, however, I will differentiate the buying process between horizontal AI apps and vertical AI apps. The horizontal AI app, like customer service and all, there is a fairly good level of benchmarking and references today. You know that if you you have a Gen AI customer service app, maybe you will get 30 to maybe 30% minimum. Some people have got 40 to 45% or 50% also. So there is a range. So hence you are much more comfortable with that. So customer service is one, coding is one, search is one, summarization, all of this 4 5 top use cases, right? And then with that you can say fine. So there is a buying process for that one, which is there. I will say in the horizontal apps, there the challenge is that some of the larger software vendors are also building those solutions now. So in there, you are competing against some of the larger software vendors also. So hence the buying process will be a little different because it will be compared against somebody else, larger vendors who are also building those. The vertical lab is a very different game on completely because there is no reference. Not many people are building it. There is white spaces today. I feel in vertical apps, you should not sell, you should build with the enterprise. Because enterprises will have the best domain expertise. You want to build an healthcare, end of the day, the healthcare company knows more best of how it works. You have to embed yourself in that enterprise to understand the entire workflow of that. Maybe whoever those personas are, right? Maybe a claim specialist, maybe somebody else, right? Maybe a merchandising guy, supply chain, and build it. So that's a selling process.
That leads in very well to my next question, right? Especially in the vertical side of things, one of the things that you shared was that 80% of the work lies in integration, not in the model, not in the product that's coming in. I think that's especially true in AI, right? And you said that sometimes you had to let go of some solutions that didn't fit. Right? What are some of the mistakes that you see founders make again and again when it comes to working with large enterprises, where, like you said, a lot of the work is in integration and not just in the product that they're bringing to the table?
I think there are two, three things. One is your the startup app has been built on a certain data in mind, has been trained on a certain data. Enterprise data is noisy data, first of all, disparate, siloed, all over the place. So, for example, if you have built a search on a very good, clean piece of data, you go to an enterprise, you will find the product data. It's the same T-shirt has got two attributes or all of those kind of things. So you search for round colored T-shirt, you will get 3 4 same things, right? All erroneous results. And that's the mistake we do, right? We think that it will be an ideal scenario. It is not. So I think the data is very noisy in enterprises because that's the way it has been built over years and years, right? So the first thing is we have to make sure how we get the data AI ready, and that can't be done by the startup. It has to be done along with the enterprises. I remember cleaning up the entire product data, product master data to just to make search work from an enterprise. It was very nice. So that's one. I think second is any application that a startup brings has to fit into the systems architecture, the workflow architecture, right? Advanced enterprises have API, non-advanced enterprises don't have APIs. So there's a lot of such nuances are there, and this integration I feel is super critical because if we don't, I mean, for example, the experience that I have was that we have the app. Now, this particular one from the startup has to integrate with the app in the front end. Right? Front end has got built with the subnet architecture. It took us a really, really long time to figure this integration out. So my take will be that go with a very strong integrate. Go with a very open mind, saying that my platform will work irrespective of what you have. No, it will not. So go with a very open mind, understand and empathize the problems that enterprises have, and try to solve with them, rather than saying that I can do this all. So a more collaborative team-make approach with a strong integration architecture expertise will help a lot in working. But data is very important.
So one of the things that you spoke about, one of the use cases that you spoke about was having a zero accident goal at Tata Steel, right? Where you were applying AI in a way which was very, very deeply human and bringing in really the kind of an ethics and morality of the Tata Group as an application, right? So that was very interesting. Can you a little bit explain about that and how it is, what kind of impact you're seeing with that?
Yeah, so it goes back to the safety, right? If you see safety as a thing, it is not only Tata Steel. There are a lot of manufacturing companies in Tata Group. We're an electronics company. Chroma also does installation in very complex houses and places. So the philosophy is that we need to minimize accidents and minimize absolutely those things. How do you do that, right? Suppose you have to wear a certain kind of gear before you go near a blast furnace, and helmet and all of that. Maybe some people don't do that, not intentionally. Maybe they'll forget, like any other people. So there are a lot of such regulations when you're working in a plant floor with such kind of hazardous material and hazardous things. So if you can create a safety AI application, right, which is a combination of vision, combination of obviously cameras, vision, combination of the rules that should be there is ingested, right? And you can then clearly give an alert saying that, oh, this guy doesn't have the required thing and he's sitting near the blast furnace proactively, right? That's the safety thing. I just given one example that we can that we should talk, or exposure to hazardous materials without the right uniform, like electronics plants and all that. So that's a tremendous application of I feel of AI, which can help. So in my mind, if you can create a safety LLM, where all the safety practices, the LLM in a small language is trained on all these safety practices, and then you can use that. It's a fantastic thing, not only for here, for India.
Amazing, yeah. I mean, there are obviously worldwide applications across manufacturing.
Yeah, worldwide application, exactly. Yeah.
A lot of the safety regulations are very similar.
Yes, 100%. You can ingest all that. Yeah.
So one of the other things that you spoke about was making enterprise functions agentic, right? Not just like bolting on AI onto an old workflow without changing the workflow. Do you think that all enterprise functions are due for an overhaul or a reimagining, or do you think there are some workflows and enterprise functions which are more suited for this kind of an overhaul to make it agentic rather than just, like the old digital transformation, the workflow didn't change. How do you think about that?
So I will say that all enterprise functions are processes that can be agentified. So you take sales, marketing. I'm not saying the whole function, but marketing can have processes, campaign management process, the prospecting process, procurement, vendor negotiation, for example, in procurement, right? The whole process of that, HR, the entire recruitment, talent management, all of that. So those processes are absolutely ripe for automation. So more than the function, but I think every function has one or two processes that can really be reimagined end to end. Finance also, invoice matching, all of that.
So, there are certain things which, from a digital perspective, came in very early, but now have become very rigid. Right? So, when we take ERP, when we take, older contact center kind of things, so many things, these were some of the first applications that were adopted. And because of that, like they've become like a, steel frame, right? It's like very rigid, very hard to work with, and things like that. Do you see a window for Indian startups to compete against them now, or to, you know, build something with AI that can leapfrog? How do you think about that?
I think there are two ways to look at it. I think because most of the enterprises are so deeply embedded with these large ERPs and they kind of run the whole organization or enterprise, building something that will replace them will be a huge risk perceived from the enterprise, and it will be a multi-year program, right? So I think that probably can be undertaken, but we need to be conscious about that. And that will be a very long. Uh, it is going to be a very long game, not going to be a short game. If we are going to about that, I will say that the opportunities lie in two areas. One is lot of this enterprise applications need to be migrated. There's a huge technical debt today in the world that are on very lower version. For example, SAP has to go to SAP HANA. Everybody has to go. Maybe 40% of enterprises have gone, 60% have not gone. So, is there a, but it's more services opportunity. Is there an opportunity for Indian startup service companies to really take this and study this thing market and say, I will use AI to complete. If today your migration of SAP takes 6 months, I will do it in 2 months because I will automate your data migration completely. I will exactly know your metadata now and your target state. So I will completely do that whole thing. So that can be a very good opportunity for Indian startup service companies, I feel. The second is, again, in this large ERP, there are a lot of processes that are very rigid. So product introduction process, but very rigid process. Right? Take those processes and then reimagine it and bolt it on top of the ERP. That will be my biggest thing. No, don't take the whole ERP, but take one or two. Even if you take supply chain, forecasting, or whatever those are, take one or two processes out of that and then bolt it on. That's a big opportunity. There are two opportunities.
In software and things like that, India was quite far behind relative to the US. In AI, do you think that India is far behind? Do you think we're close catching up? Where do you see Indian startups and enterprises from an AI adoption perspective? And do you think there'll be Indian enterprises, whether they're services or software, that can become globally competitive in the AI space?
Currently, obviously, there are a lot more US companies doing this job. But I feel that if we can choose a few areas, maybe manufacturing, maybe, or say AI first plant operations, if we can choose a few areas where we want to specialize and we want to lead. I mean, we can't lead in everything. So we like services, right? We chose software services, and that's what we never, at that time we didn't do products and all of that. Right? Just services, offshoring. We can choose that some areas like that I talked about in manufacturing or something else, and really build products and platforms around that. I feel there is significant opportunity there. But what is happening today is that there are too many startups doing hundreds of things, right? So you don't, and it's very, and it is, and you're always competing in the so many areas, always competing against something that is better, right? So I would rather say that find the right white space, and there are a lot of white spaces I can tell. Manufacturing has got, healthcare has got, retail has got, banking has got. If you can find the right white spaces and then take to market, I think logistics, for example, big area, construction, another big area, which is to be disrupted. Those are the ones I can say, but don't go all over. That's the only way I think Indian startups will make an impact.
Last question before we wrap up, Pratik. Which AI tools are you personally using? Is there a new tool that you found that has impressed you a lot in the last few weeks?
No, obviously, we use all the standard tools that everybody uses for coding testing. I think the what is happening is the upgrades to some of the tools are really surprising us, which is in OpenAI, NVIDIA, even ChatGPT. The way they are upgrading their stack and making it extremely better, right? From where I think their upgrades are not 1x better. I think the upgrades are just 10x better. NVIDIA, for example, right? So the way they are doing it is something that we are just struggling to catch up. I think that's the one that I feel that we should, that I am very enamored and very, I'll say, very interested. Those are really changing the game.
Yeah. What's one use case or tool that you personally use that you found interesting for your work or home or whatever?
So we do a lot of experimentation with UI UX. So we used to do Vercel, Lovable, and all those, right? So I mean, any time we can just create a thing that tool. I don't know Lovable now. They're saying that it is not getting the traction again, but that's something that really, especially Vercel, amazed me on how we were able to do a very complex UI in very few hours. That's one tool.
Thank you so much, Pratik. It's been a pleasure having you here. Would love to see you next time at the Vibe Summit again with
Sure.
new learnings and hopefully even a higher bar for AI companies to reach.
Thank you, Prasanna. Thank you very much.